Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Oakes with smartsocial.com. I'm excited on this episode today, no matter where you're listening to us, whether it's YouTube or Spotify or Stitcher Radio or Facebook. Today, we're talking about screen time, a little bit of anxiety, and tips you can use as a parent and an educator to protect your students and your kids. You know that at smartsocial.com, we believe that you should be safe and then smart so we can get your kids on a trajectory to use these devices with a purpose instead of just a pastime. Today, I have Nicole Beurkens today, and she's with drbeurkens.com. She's an expert when it comes to anxiety, screen time, and all things related. Dr. Beurkens, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Josh. Great to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you. Okay, so let's talk about, you've got 5 or so tips. First, tell us just real quickly, what do you do?
Yeah, so I am a clinical psychologist specializing in children and young adults. I have a private practice in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we work with kids who have neurodevelopmental issues like autism, ADHD, those kinds of issues, as well as kids, teens, and young adults with mental health issues. So as you mentioned, anxiety, depression, those types of things. So really looking across the board at how to support kids with those kinds of conditions to really be able to optimize their functioning.
I love it. Okay, so talk to us. What's one of the first things parents can do? Your tip number 1, first things parents can do to make sure their kids are safe online.
Yeah, there's so many things that are important, but I think the biggest thing that parents need to think about is that what they do with their devices and their own use of electronics is going to be the model that their kids go by. And you know, there's lots of sayings out there about how kids take more away from who we are and what we do than what we say. And that's so true. We can tell kids all of the things that we want them doing with electronics and with devices, but if we're not modeling that ourselves, that's a big problem. So if we want our kids to spend time doing other activities, for example, besides having their face in a screen, then as adults in the home, we need to be modeling that too, that we're putting our devices down, that we're closing our computer some of the time and engaging in hobbies or things with our kids or other activities. If we want our kids to be at the dinner table and not having devices, then we need to model that and not bring our phones or tablets or things to the table. So really, the first focus is on ourselves and monitoring what we're doing with our devices, and then creating a model that shows our kids, here's how to use these devices in healthy, more balanced ways.
I love that. So modeling positive behavior, and that leads into your second tip about what we should do during family time. What should people do around the dinner table?
Device-free meals, absolutely hands down should be the rule. And I get pushback from kids and even some parents all the time at my clinic about this. But the reality is it's a simple starting point to have kids putting the devices down and engaging in what really is a relational activity. Meals are not just about eating. Meals are about spending time together, about conversing, about sharing, things that are going on during the day, things that are going on in our lives. And a lot of families have become really disconnected, even at meal times, because everybody's sitting with devices and they're eating quickly and shoveling food in their face and then quick getting back to their game or texting during the meal. And you really lose all of the positive relational benefits of those meal times. So to me, that's a great, very tangible boundary to set, that in our home, we're not going to bring devices to the table and we're going to spend time together eating.
I love it. That's great. Okay, so we've talked about modeling positive behavior, device-free dinners. There's another device-free area that you suggest to people. What is that?
Yeah, this is a big one, and that is no devices in the bedrooms, especially not at night. And this is another one where I get pushback from kids and even parents, but it's so important for a number of reasons. And we can get into this more, but there is such good research now showing a connection between kids' mental health and the amount of time that they're spending on devices. And particularly when we look at what goes on with device use with kids at night, it's not good. Kids need their sleep. We all need sleep, but kids especially, children and teenagers, really need their sleep in order for them to be able to grow and develop appropriately. And what we're seeing is a trend of children and teenagers using devices at night, late into the night, having notifications going off that are waking them up so they're getting to sleep later because they've got devices in the room, or their sleep is being disrupted in the night because text alerts are going off, social media alerts. They wake up, they check their phone, and suddenly an hour later they're still scrolling. And what we're finding is that that is significantly reducing the amount of sleep and the quality of sleep that kids are getting. And that's very problematic then for how they function the next day. That takes a significant toll on their ability to learn, on their behavior, on their anxiety level, all of that. Then we get into the issues of safety, of what's going on in the middle of the night when your kid is on social media or on the internet. And, I think we can all agree it's probably nothing very good. And so from a safety standpoint, we want to really have kids have boundaries set around that. I've also had situations with kids in the clinic that have really gotten into some dangerous types of situations with using things like video chats, things in the bedroom, unsupervised at night, people asking them to do things, them being more vulnerable without adults around. It just creates a situation that lends itself to lots of potentially bad things happening. And so I really work with parents to set a hard, firm rule that we do not have devices in the bedroom, especially not during the nighttime hours. Those devices can be left to charge with all the rest of the family's devices, at a location in the home that makes sense to do that. And then they can retrieve them in the morning, but we're just not going to have them in the bedrooms at night.
I love it. I'm your biggest fan, I have to tell you. And here's why. Number one, parents, we love simple tips over here. So these are guiding, amazing, tactical things you can do to protect your kids. We're not using big buzzwords. We're not here to scare you. I'm going to put a link below, everybody that's watching or listening to this, to our favorite chargers that you can put in the kitchen or the parent's bedroom. And it's a massive charge. It's not a massive charger. I actually have one of them right here. And all it is a device that it's really hard to show you. Here it is, boom. And it has a bunch of USBs on one side. And if you don't have one of these, get one. And the new one that I have actually auto detects what type of device it is. And it charges it quietly and carefully overnight, no matter what type of device. It listens to what it is. So you're going to see a link below in the bio to an Amazon link to our favorite devices. That also has all kinds of other areas in your life that you can help. Stuff that we like that's rated high on Amazon. We don't work for any of the companies, but it's stuff you can use. Number two, if any of you are listening to this right now and your kids have the Monkey app, that's a hot app out this week, in the last few weeks. It is a chat roulette style app, meaning you jump on, a kid will do this. It requires that you're 13 years or older, but we all know that your 9-year-old can bypass anything they want to very easily. Do not trust that, it's got age restrictions. Mm-hmm. At the age of less than 18 years old, your kids should not be doing this. They should not be jumping on the Monkey app and randomly video chatting with random people all over the world for 15 seconds. And then they try and chat. And then if they feel like they want to continue to chat, both of them hold down the continue button and they can then talk and connect with each other on Snapchat. It's scary. Please go watch our free app guide. But Dr. Beurkens, I couldn't agree more with you. These devices in the middle of the night can lead to apps like that, where they get this thrill that a drug will give them. They get this thrill of new people, strangers. I don't know these people, must be harmless. And then they start to develop a friendship. The kids do not have the wisdom, parents, that you do. And you're giving them, and I'm sorry to preach right now, I apologize, but you're giving them a Ferrari and they don't have a place to go with it. They don't even know how to drive it. But this little device that you paid $300 to $800 for, yes, this one's like $800, ridiculous. But this device can drastically hurt your child because they really don't have a purpose with it, or training wheels, or driving. Okay, enough preaching for me. Dr. Beurkens, I'm your biggest fan right now.
Well, I think what you just said is really critical and is something that, ties in with all these strategies of the big why do we need to use these strategies? It's because if we are going to give our kids these devices, which it's funny you use that analogy because I use the same one. I say, it's like giving a Ferrari to your 13-year-old who doesn't even have a permit yet. And from the standpoint of the human brain and what we understand about brain development in kids, we are giving these devices to kids who do not yet have the level of brain development, particularly in that prefrontal cortex of their brain, to make good decisions, to be able to prioritize the use of that well, to manage themselves well. All of those skills in the brain develop throughout childhood, really start to grow in adolescence, and aren't firmed up until young adulthood or even in the late 20s for some people. And yet, we're giving kids devices and then standing back and saying, okay, well, I hope this works out. And it's like, we have to be involved and engaged in teaching them and guiding them how to appropriately use these things. They just don't know how to do it on their own.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, we have a little guide for everybody watching right now. I'm going to give you an idea, and this is simply a menu, and I'm going to walk you through it because we're practical and tactical here. I want to show you something that we've come up with that's very easy. It's part of my speech. When should my kid get a phone? Doctor, I'd like to see what you think of this. Parents, you're going to decide when because you're the experts, but our professional suggestion is 0 to 10, no phone if possible at all. They don't have a way to talk to the outside world at any time. But if you must, if you're divorced from your former spouse or whatever, and you want to keep tabs on them, 10 to 13 is time for a flip phone. Please don't call it a dumb phone, but it gives you the good side of social, which we have a proprietary little thing in our side. Connections and communication are a good side of technology. It's when it gets into the consuming and comparing that's bad. Flip phones give you all the upside with very little downside. SMS, text, phone calls. Age 13 is time for that permit, as Dr. Beurkens is talking about. Cell phone safety contract. Age 14 is time for a smartphone without the social media apps installed. So we've got some training wheels. You got a permit and you have a golf cart, so you can't go really fast. And then age 15 is that Ferrari. So you have the smartphone with the social media apps, a little bit more wisdom. They understand it. And Dr. Beurkens is really hinting at this cell phone safety contract, which is that chance at saying, in fact, the chance at setting expectations. Talk to us a little bit more, Dr. Beurkens, about setting expectations. How can we do that? What are some of your tactical tips?
Yeah. One of the things that I think parents run into is, okay, I want to set some limits and some boundaries, but I feel like this is going to be a constant power struggle. And when can they use the phone during the day and when can't they? And do I constantly have to be nagging them and on them? And one of the simplest ways to manage that is to have daily expectations of the things that you prioritize that need to be done first before kids start to access devices and those kinds of things. So for example, we need to have chores done, or we need to have homework done, or we need to have, if it's a morning routine, you need to have your hygiene taken care of, you need to have eaten breakfast. Here's the specific expectations of what needs to be done. Once you have responsibly managed those things, now you can have access. And that helps kids to start to think about prioritizing what's more or less important. It also makes it really clear what it is that they need to do. And then we can back off a bit by saying, okay, the things that need to get done, the things that we put a high value on, the things that we expect from our child are completed now. And now we can, feel good about giving them some time if they're going to watch a video or text with, their friends or whatever it's going to be. Those expectations obviously are going to evolve and change over time as kids get older, depending on whether it's the school year or the summer. So certainly it's flexible, depending on what's going on. But I think that that's a helpful way to think about it, because otherwise parents often get into this mode where they feel like all day long they're nagging their kid about, did you do this? Did you do that? Get off the phone. You need to do this. And it's like, let's pull that out of it and let's really focus on, here's the things that need to get done. Once we've responsibly managed those, then we can move on to fun use of the device.
I love that. And that's basically the permit or the driver's ed and what can go wrong. Parents, let's have some real talk here for just a moment. If in this age with these devices and all these bad people out there talking with your kids or wanting the chance to talk with your kid, if your kids are upset at you once a week, once a month, because you parented them more than you worried about them liking you, you are a great parent. Please,
absolutely.
you need this permission from me as your friend, your family's mentor. If your kids are upset and angry at you because you know what's best and you have then said no, and they're just really angry and it would be so much easier to give in, you're a great parent. Please let me be your cheerleader and say, you go, I'll give you a digital high five. But it's okay to say no. Keeping your kids a little bit longer, giving them that, telling them, hey, I pay for the $50 a month, your portion of our family phone bill. I'm paying for this device. The replacement value, a business term, replacement value is $800. Oh, but you got it for free. It's your extra one. No. If you break it, it is $800 to get a new one of this statute, right? Oh, but it's your free one. No. You're my son or daughter, but it's okay to be a little difficult on them. It's okay to put it in writing and have them sign it, because you can be their friend again, because you have something difficult that they know that you can go back to. Am I wrong there, doctor?
No, you're absolutely right. And if there's one area where I have seen over the last decade parents feel more disempowered, it's in this area of technology and managing devices with their kids. And for some reason, it just sets up this dynamic where parents just kind of go, oh, I don't have any control here. I can't manage this, so my kid's just going to do what they want. And no. Exactly as you're saying, parents need to be involved in this. And I tell parents all the time, if your child is happy with you all the time, you're doing something wrong. Your kid should not be happy with you all the time. If they're a little bit upset or a lot upset, because you're setting healthy limits, because that's your job and responsibility as a parent. As you said, you're doing a great job. And, we're not just talking about, it's not good for kids to be on devices all the time. Wouldn't it be nice if they did other things? I mean, we're talking about some serious ramifications of parents not feeling empowered to handle this stuff. Not only safety concerns, as you've been talking about, but also bigger picture mental health issues. We've got research now showing that the rates of anxiety, depression, ADD, particularly in preteens and teenagers, are increasing astronomically in connection with device use, screen time in general, specifically with social media app use. So these are not just theoretical concerns, or they're not just, I wish my kid didn't spend so much time on this. These are real things that we as parents need to be aware of and need to be managing for our kids' health, their physical health, but also their mental health.
I couldn't agree more with you. We, here at the office, we have about 300 of the biggest concerns that parents have. And I got to tell you, parents, just like doctor just said, if you think, oh, it's just this, it's so much more. There's 3 areas that we really can consider, in our opinion, in our professional advice opinion, 3 areas of concerns that we see. 1, protecting your kids from the bad people out there. Really big, number 1 foundational thing that we believe in. And that's knowing what apps are on, being on the apps with them, making sure at bedtime they don't have apps, the phone in their custody, and then also being able to get in at all times. Number 2 is protecting kids from each other. There's a little bit of anti-bullying I want everybody to know about. Dialogue with your kids about if someone says something mean. It might not be directed at you. It might be they have something bad, but protecting kids so they're kind of coexisting a little bit easier with each other. And then the third one that we truly believe in at smartsocial.com is protecting kids' future. Making sure they shine online, have a personal website, learn how to brand their online footprint so that they behave better on Snapchat, Instagram, and everywhere else. We Dr. Beurkens, we have a big mission this year to make sure every middle schooler at least understands and has a free opportunity to build their Google site, their website that is their home base. Whoa, Mom, look, all these projects, passions, and purposes that I have on the side, I can begin to develop. I can keep it private until my parents are ready. I just taught a big class in Ohio last week. And we teach students how to unlock all this stuff that they have, all these photos they have on their device, how to put them in a folder, start thinking about describing them. And at the end of it, the kids, it was a 2-hour class that went to 2.5 hours. They said, no, we'll go to lunch late. This is really fun. We're leaving with a portfolio of accomplishments. Secretly, what they're doing, and this is parents, what I want you to think about, this isn't just saying no to your kids. I do think that there is a positive light at the end. It's all about, how do we get them to use these devices with a purpose? Our goal is that someday when your kid is applying to college and they walk into that college admissions officer or an employer or an internship, someone is going to ask them this. Tell me about yourself. And we want them, as every student that's gone through our program, to be able to say, well, actually, this is a great phone interview, or do you have a browser in front of you? I'd like to show you, I have a little website. Did you see that in my application? You click on that and let me show you my projects I'm working on. And that's what we want your kid to do, because they will brand themselves and have more wisdom online. Dr. Beurkens, walk us through some anxiety tips. What are some tips that you have? We all have anxiety, adults just as much as kids, I would argue. What are some tips that you give in your clinic to tell people on how to reduce that or dialogue about that?
Yeah, there's so many areas that can be positive. Specifically with electronics, what we find is that devices and social media use have become a very common way that kids and adults try to manage and soothe their anxiety, because when we're distracted from whatever the uncomfortable feeling is we're having, that feels good in the moment, right? So if I'm feeling really nervous or really stressed out or really anxious about something, I can temporarily soothe myself by sort of getting lost in things online. Well, that's not necessarily a bad temporary strategy. What we can find happen is that kids are doing that way too much. And what's interesting is that becomes a vicious cycle, because we know that the more time they spend engaging, particularly on social media, with all of the comparisons, all of the peer stuff, all of the things they're being exposed to on there, that then fuels anxiety and drives it higher. So the very reason that they're going on social media to kind of make themselves feel better actually can lead to making them feel worse. So social media use especially is something to be talking with our kids about in terms of anxiety, particularly what kinds of social media they're engaging with, the activities that they're engaging in on social media, the comparisons, particularly for young women and girls on social media, drives anxiety really, really high. So monitoring and managing, and I love that sort of age guidelines that you set up on that slide that you showed a little bit ago about when we start to give kids access to social media, where they can manage that better and not have such escalated anxiety from it. So definitely monitoring and managing social media use is an important piece of that. I think also it's really key to be communicating with our kids about what they're experiencing and how they're feeling about things. A lot of really anxious kids and teens that I see in the clinic, part of what fuels and perpetuates the anxiety is they don't feel like they're connected to anyone who they can really talk to about these things. You know, mom and dad are so busy, or my friends don't care, or I'm not, really feeling connected enough to be open and honest about how I'm feeling. And as parents, we need to model that for our kids. I have 4 kids of my own. They're 12 to 19 now. So I live this stuff at home. It's not just, stuff that I talk about professionally. And we need to be there, and we need to be prompting for that communication, raising things to them. Gosh, I notice you seemed a little more quiet, or you seem stressed out. I'd love to know what's going on with that. Here's some stressful stuff going on in my life. Here's what I find helpful. Dialoguing and plugging into our kids in that way on a regular basis is so key to helping to normalize their emotions, helping them realize that these are things we all experience, and really giving them some tools and some support to navigate through that.
Love that. That is all so good stuff. I'm going to leave people with this one thing. And doctor, I'd like to show you this. It's what we call, a lot of people are just wondering. It's, as you've said, it's so much of a more detailed experience just giving your kid a device. So we have what we call here at Smart Social, the tipping point. I have a nerdy, because I'm a dork, the 4 C's. The good side of social and the bad side of social. And once again, this is a guide for anybody listening. I'm going to dialogue about this just for 30 seconds. If you're watching, you'll see the screen. The good side is connecting with others in our belief. That means email does this, and communicating with them. So you connect with them at an event, you can DM or text or email. That means texting, emailing, and direct messaging. That's the great side of social, the great side of technology. It's human relationships. But as soon as it starts consuming our time as an adult, if you've ever sat in the line at the bank or anywhere else and you went, oh, I need to pull up my phone and check because I'm not doing anything. Well, that's when we're scrolling on our feed to feed ourselves that little drug that is that dopamine that we all don't know that we want, but we do want. Watching snaps when we're bored, or filling our time with Instagram. Students do this, Instagram and Snapchat. This leads your children from not only consuming but comparing themselves to others. And those are the bad C's, if you will, the consuming and the comparing that we've talked about really. And Doctor, you've hit on this really. And we're just trying to, our job here at Smart Social is to kind of just bucket this into people understanding, hey, a flip phone helps you connect and communicate. The smartphone with apps installed at too young of an age, kids don't understand it. Now, put the predators aside. Pretend like there's no bad people on the web. Your kids are their own worst enemies, parents. If they're just consuming and comparing themselves to their friends, they will feel like their body isn't skinny enough. They're not dating the right people. They don't go to the nice vacations because their parents don't take them on these vacations. And they won't understand, obviously, as none of us do, even as adults, that Instagram is our most polished version of our life. It's our best foot forward. It's living our best self, right? And so if you're at all wondering, please, a flip phone is a great alternative to start off with, talking with kids, giving them a smartphone without the apps and so on. Where am I going wrong here, Doctor?
I love it. I think that that's great. I love those 4 C's. And I think, one of the things that I'll speak to the parents out there, because as a parent, I live this all the time with my own kids and their devices. It can feel overwhelming. We want to give our kids access to these things. We want them to learn. I mean, technology is a reality of our world. It's not realistic to say, I'm not going to give this to my kid and not have them exposed. Our job is to teach them how to have healthy relationships with digital media, with devices, because it is a reality of our world. We also need to set limits and be monitoring, and it's a challenge. And I think that's where that communication piece and plugging into our kids and being aware of what they're doing, of what's going on, talking with them, sitting down and having a conversation about show me some of the things you've been doing online. Let's talk about some of the things you saw today. I think that for some parents also, it can be really helpful to utilize either the, things that come on devices in terms of restrictions and limits that you can set for those. That's a very empowering thing for parents to feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to keep track of all of that. Use the things that come on devices that help you set controls. Absolutely, things like controls for what content they can access. I can't tell you how many families come into the clinic and they're even young elementary age kids have gotten into some real trouble with stuff on their devices because parents didn't even know that there were options on there for restricting inappropriate, pornographic content or different things like that. We need to be aware of that as parents. And then there are other apps, like I find it really helpful as a parent. I like the Custodio app. I recommend that at the clinic all the time. And there's lots of options that can make it easier for us. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, like, oh, I've got 2 kids or 3 kids or whatever, I don't know how I can begin to manage or keep track of all this. Look at the options that are out there that help make that simpler for you. And then also be in communication and engage with your kids around this. We can't just give them a device and walk away. We need to be engaged on a regular basis with communicating and thinking about this stuff with them.
I couldn't agree more. I really appreciate your time here today. For those of you parents that are listening or watching, I've got a next step to protect your family, and it's 100% free. It is what we call our social media safety webinar. It's at smartsocial.com. You can click the link below. It's called How to Navigate the Negative Effects of Student Social Media and Help Your Students Someday Shine Online. It's at smartsocial.com webinar. You can click the links anywhere around this video. It's going to teach you the top 7 bad apps to avoid. My team, I have a whole staff. It's not just me. I am a cheerleader, and I've got a team of researchers, and we find the top 80 apps out there that your kids want to be on that can be a starting place, which are good, a medium place, and a very bad place. I'm going to show you the top 7 red zone apps you should avoid. I'm going to show you how to find out what your kids are doing online. And there's a cool tip. It's a free tool that we're all familiar with. I'm going to show you some reverse ways to use it in a way that protects your family and opens a dialogue. Next, I'm going to teach you some ways to get your kids off their screens so that they're participating in projects in real life that you can use to then someday teach your kids to be positive online, develop that resume, and brand themselves in a way that gets them into their dream college, dream internship, dream career. I appreciate your time here today. Doctor, I'm so thankful for all the tips that you've had. I'm going to give you last word. What would you tell parents that are frustrated? devices have taken over their kids' lives, what would you let them know?
First of all, that's pretty normal, and a lot of parents feel that way, and don't stay stuck in that feeling. Take some action, even a small action that starts to move in the direction of feeling empowered to help your kids develop a healthier relationship for technology, whether that's modeling something yourself and being more intentional about that, or starting with something simple like device-free dinners during the week. Pick something that starts to move you, your family, your child in a more positive direction with technology. And don't get overwhelmed with all the possibilities of things you can do. Just start with one thing and then grow from there.
I love it. I'm really thankful for your time here today, Doctor. We're going to link to the doctor's organization below, and that's drbeurkens.com. You'll see her link. You can go learn more about her and what she does. For all the rest of you, I do hope that you will take our free webinar that will give you a foundation, a baseline of how to navigate this difficult world. We're in a time where we've never seen before, where kids are brighter online and are faster moving, and this has never happened before. In the Industrial Revolution and before that, adults had more wisdom. Now kids, because they don't pay for these devices, can have the freedom to try things without them breaking and without having to pay for the replacement cost that is the device. And now they are free to go invent and design things and click on any app they want. It's a scary time, but we're here to help you navigate this in a safe and fun way. Thank you to all of you that are listening from around the world. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you to our guest, Dr. Beurkens. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great day.